Well, turning to housing, hope and despair on the housing front this morning. According to new numbers from RealtyTrac, November foreclosures are down 15% from their November peak. Still, filings will hit a new record this year with 3.9 million notices sent to homeowners in default. Now, RealtyTrac's Vice President of Marketing, Rick Sharga, is back here to go through those numbers for you. And Rick, good to see you these days. With the housing data, the foreclosures, it looks as if that perhaps, correct me if I'm wrong, the trend is slowing down the number of filings, right, that you've seen over the last few months.
Well, I'm afraid we might be looking at a false positive trend right now. But yes, we've seen 4 consecutive months of marginal decline since we hit our peak month in July when 361,000 homeowners received a foreclosure notice.
Why do you say false positive?
Well, we haven't seen any improvement in the underlying conditions. We're still looking at high levels of unemployment. We're still looking at a high percentage of mortgages being underwater. And we're still looking at limited credit availability, which makes getting a loan difficult. So there's no real organic reason for these numbers to be going down. And we think what's happening are process delays and some government intervention that's artificially delaying things.
Artificially delaying things. So things could be worse when?
Oh, I think first quarter of next year we'll see another wave of new foreclosure activity. Delinquencies have been going up. We have 5.5 million homeowners who are late on their mortgage payments right now, and many of those, under normal circumstances, would have already been in foreclosure. But the Treasury is asking the lenders to make doubly sure that anybody who qualifies for the HAMP program or other modification programs gets in those programs. And so the lenders are sorting through all 5.5 million of those loans one at a time.
Yeah, I've talked to some people about this as well, some economists and also just hedge funders who are watching this market very closely say the same thing. I mean, how bad could this second wave, let's call it, or foreclosures, how bad could it be from the first one?
Well, we think we'll probably hit the historic peak next year in 2010 as a lot of the option arm loans reset, as unemployment related foreclosures peak before numbers finally start to settle down a little bit in 2011. We tend to take a somewhat less pessimistic view in terms of potential devastation to the housing market, because we don't think there's a very likely scenario that the banks will just flood the market with all these distressed properties at once. We think it's more likely you'll see a very long, drawn-out, mostly flat housing recovery over the next 3 years.
Okay, well, not good for those of us who just bought a home, like me. But in any case, Rick, okay, so any changes, though, geographically that you can tell us? Because we know that, we know that Nevada's pretty bad hit. We know California's bad hit. We know Florida is. But anything that has changed in those profiles?
Actually, a couple interesting notes. Idaho continues to ratchet its foreclosure numbers up. It ranked number 5 this month. Illinois and Utah are in the top 10. And actually, Nevada is one of those states with government intervention that's artificially delaying some of the foreclosure actions. There is a new mandatory mediation law in Nevada that's resulted in back-to-back months of double-digit drops in foreclosure actions. But the billion-dollar question is whether these homeowners will ultimately avoid foreclosure or whether it'll just be delayed.
Okay, Rick, good to talk with you as always about the housing market. It's quite enlightening. That was Rick Sharga of RealtyTrac.